ladies. Well, we have an extra guest again today. We have Sophie. I think
she needs a little TLC.
I think she needs some extra love.
She does.
What's going on, Sophie?
It's just dog therapy, which is not all that unpopular. It's kind of the rage right now. So
I know. Today we actually are talking about outgrowing relationships, and I think that a lot of people think, because we've been programmed from a young age to think that there's our soulmate out there or our best friend for life. And I really believe that we've been programmed to think that when people come into your life, they stay forever.
Yes.
And it just doesn't happen all the time. I mean, I think there are some people that will be with you for a lifetime, and we say this often, season, reason, lifetime.
My favorite poem.
But I know for me, when I went through my divorce, and we definitely outgrew each other. We were in our 20s when we got married, and I think you just are a different person in your 20s, and then in your 30s, and then again in your 40s, yes. Right? And if you aren't able to grow together, I think that people grow apart.
Yeah, and grow apart, like you said, from business colleagues, grow apart from your bestie, your bestie from high school. That's a hard one to maintain.
Yeah.
Besties from college seemed a little easier because you kind of were on a similar path. But yeah, besties from middle school, forget it. I mean, it's really, really tough. I remember going through those losses with people that I kept saying for years, but I've known her since I'm 12. And finally one day I woke up, I'm like, but she's not the same.
Right,
we're different.
Right.
Way different. And so I think that's a great way of putting it, that we're raised from the start with that mentality that that's what we should do. And so it's hard for us to recognize, we're really different now, and it's not a match anymore, whether it be marital, whether it be, from a childhood friend, and being able to step away from that without being mean, but just recognizing that it's not a match. Oh, whoops.
So just so you know, we have a hurricane. no, not a hurricane. But we have the door open here, and the wind just took it open. So how do you, because I feel like oftentimes what happens in these situations is you have one party that wants to hang on, and you have one party that's like, I got to get out of this relationship, right. Whether it's a love relationship or even a friendship. There are, I know when I was going through my divorce, I had some friends that we weren't compatible anymore because they were friends with my exes, or they were the wives or the girlfriends or whatever of my exes. And so it just didn't work anymore,
right.
Right. And so we tried to hang on and be friends still, but it was really awkward and uncomfortable at times. Yeah. And so how do you resolve that if you're the one that, is trying to pull away, and then the other one is, wanting to hang on to the relationship?
So the theme for anything today that we've talked about has been communication. So for starters, you need to be able to be honest and just share how you're feeling.
That's so hard.
It's so hard. But here's what
Can't you just stop calling them?
Yeah. Yeah, or you can ghost them and just delete everything, block everything.
Peace out.
Done. Well, but here's the thing. It's so hard typically because we innately feel responsible for other people's feelings. And at the end of the day, people have a right to their feelings, and our growth opportunity is to be able to set the boundary or do what we need to do and be compassionate, but also let the other person feel what they need to feel and not take it back. So here's a perfect example. Let's say we're working on something. Last week, I think you had to cancel or something. Is that right? Okay. So it was like the day before, you were like, hey, I can't do it. Which I was fine. But if I would have felt disappointed and I would have said, oh, I was really looking forward to it. And then you would have taken it back. Oh, okay. Let me make it work. And it's like, let me have my feelings. Yes. It's okay
let
if
you
I'm
be
disappointed.
Right.
I'll get through it. It's never killed anybody to date.
Right.
Disappointment has never killed anybody. So when you're about to embark on this, I would do a lot of self-talk about, it is not my responsibility how this person feels about our relationship ending. I have my own feelings about it. I've been in my own process. I've cried, I've talked, I've prayed, I've whatever. they're then going to go through their own process, which is none of my business and not my responsibility. And I can be compassionate. But one of the things I would say, I remember one of the most sacred relationships in my life, and I can even talk about it like this because my husband, I shared the story with him, and he was like, it was so cute. He was like, I really wish you would have ended up with him. It was like I was reading him a book, and he was like, oh, what happens at the end? Oh, I want them to get back together. And, it's kind of like, but then I wouldn't be with you. But it was a beautiful relationship that I had in college, and I really felt like it was my soulmate of all soulmates. And I will say, I have never had another relationship like that because I was jaded after that. So like from the standpoint of before that, fairy tales could come true.
Right.
But when I lost it, I realized, you know what? There's a reality piece to this life thing, and it isn't always a fairy tale. So I never quite loved with those naive eyes again, which did change future relationships. But we really had that soulmate thing, that connection, and we danced together. I mean, he worked for Arthur Murray Studios teaching dance, and I grew up dancing. So as soon as we met, we did every kind of dance together, from the swing to Latin dancing to country dance. I mean, we just had so much fun. He sang, I sang. I mean, we just shared so many things, and we were both emotional, and we both loved to laugh. We had a beautiful relationship, but he was very much of a drinker and a partier and used cocaine and all kinds of fun, vices that I grew up with addiction. Not going to happen.
Yeah, you're not going down that road.
Sorry, and he was in the restaurant business, so he would often come home really drunk. And so once we got, he did good at hiding it for the first couple of years. We were long distance. And then when we were in the same home and talking about marriage and all that, and he would come home at 3 a.m. out of his skull, or having been up all night doing cocaine or whatever. It was like, oh my God, I didn't know. So I remember I had to end that relationship, and one of the things that he kept trying, he was devastated, I was devastated, and he kept coming back to me, and one of the things that I felt like he kept doing was he kept wanting me to fix his pain. Yeah. So he would come and be like, can you give me a hug? Can we talk? And finally I said, hey, I've got my own journey with this. I've got a therapist. I've got a best friend. I've got my mom. These are my supports. You need to get yours. I can't get you through this. I can't be your support. I'm walking out the door. So I can't also hold you when you cry. I'd love to. I'm crying too. But I can't be your support. And I think that that's fair, even with a friendship, to say, listen, I hear you. And to be there that first week when maybe somebody's like, I'm really struggling. Can we talk? Can we talk? Yes, we talk. Once we're done, whether it's a friendship or not, it's like, okay, I need to set a boundary here. You're going to grieve. I'm going to grieve. You're going to have questions, issues. You need to take those over there and get those people to help you with that. I cannot do it with you anymore because I'm not responsible, and you have a right to do this, but it's too painful for us to do it together. Yeah. Because I think a lot of people try to break up together. It's like, we're going to talk again. You know what I mean? Right. Well, and you don't end up broken up, that's for sure, because, you keep taking care of each other, which is neither here nor there. But if you really are sure that that's not what you want to do anymore, let them feel their feelings, but they can do it with someone else.
Yes, they've got to find their support system.
They have to.
This is when I'm hearing you talk to, this is coming up for me too in parenting, that we do that a lot, where we don't want our kids to hurt when we set our foot down or discipline them or set a boundary or say that's not okay. And then we see their reaction, and then we want to fix it. So we either take it back or say, oh, but we can go to the store and buy you something nice. So I think we do it not just in, love relationships, but also in our relationships with our children, that we, we need to allow them to have their process of being disappointed or whatever emotion is coming up for them.
I love that you're bringing that up, because if we can't do this, and people get stung when I say stuff like this, but let me tell you something. If you don't let your kid feel disappointment ever, and you fix it every time, and then they're 19 and they get fired or dumped or both, they're going to pick up a chemical because they don't know how to process it, and they now believe that they shouldn't be disappointed and they shouldn't have that feeling, so then they should medicate it with their wine or their pill or whatever. Let people feel it. Let your kid feel their disappointment and recognize, hey, I felt like crap for a week. Then the second week I got out of bed. Then the third week I went to the beach. Then the fourth week I was like, hey, she's cute. Like, let them understand. They'll get through it. There's a survival rate. We can process disappointment. We can survive loss. We have an ability to get through this. If we don't learn that, then we just medicate it.
Yeah.
With food, shopping, sex, drugs, alcohol. And then many of us are at 40, 50 years old trying to get sober because we don't know how to deal with a job loss.
Yeah.
Or a disappointment.
Yeah, or a divorce.
Or
a change, or whatever it is.
Absolutely.
The other thing I think that is very difficult for people when you're talking about outgrowing relationships, whatever that relationship is being alone. You know, and I know, gosh, this is so hard for me. Is that being alone. And I've said this before, Sundays are always like, we're always the worst after the divorce because you just felt so alone. How do you process that? How do you process that feeling of just that intense feeling of aloneness?
Well, I mean, gosh, guilty as charged too. Like, I've definitely had a lot of alone this year. And so I want to tread lightly here to be very respectful to how extremely painful it is to fear being alone, to being alone, to intense loneliness. So it is an entity unto itself, but I want to liken it to, it's so familiar to me having two kids that have just kind of mastered driving. And I remember like the first time I ever took Hannah and I was like, oh geez, this is, you know what I mean? Like, this is not going to go well for anyone, you know, because she was like an alien. She's like, I'm like, don't you feel the car? And she's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, feel yourself in the seat.
You're like, you are not driving on I-95.
Oh my God, I did. And it's like, don't you feel your car on the road? Like when I get in my car, I feel it on the road. I can feel it. I know exactly. I'm not worried I'm going to go off the road.
But you've also been driving for 30 years.
Right. Which is my point.
Right.
That everything in life, including being alone, when I launched my kid to school, I was so lonely. I was fine for like 2 months and then wham, I got hit. And then I was so lonely. And like the week before she came home, I was like, I'm good. You know, like I started to feel like comfortable in my home, and I started to feel like nice and happy that it was so clean. You know, something started to shift inside me just in time for her to come home and put her stuff all back over my house.
Mom, I got laundry.
But my point is, with everything we adjust. And one of my besties was saying to me recently, I don't know if I want to start dating, because she said, I'm so good. She was like, I'm so good. Yeah. And she said she finally adjusted to like just her being alone time. Yeah. So I promise
not having to answer to anyone. Yes.
Yeah. I promise you, we are adaptable. You know, the lizard changes colors on the tree to keep itself alive. We will adapt. We will adjust to the change, you know? And so I think that our tendency is, I don't want to be alone, so then we grab things, or we distract, or we stay busy. Stay alone, like climb into it a little bit.
Or we stay in relationships that we shouldn't because we don't want to be alone.
We don't want to be alone. So what I'm saying to you is, like, if you're in that relationship that you're terrified to let go of, it probably will be the best thing that's ever happened to you. And I think that, like, even for me, my higher power was wrestling with me for years. Like, just take some time alone. I'm like, no, okay, I'm going to be alone. Hi, how are you? And then I would hook back up and have a date and whatever. And so it was really hard for me to be alone. And I know I've shared this story, but I was in a relationship with somebody who I never saw. I mean, it's comical, right? Like, he's like, I'm going to see you soon, in a week, in another week, in another week. I was 6 months or 4 months, like, dating someone that I never saw. But it put me alone, until I got to a place where I was so content that I was able to go, you know what, I'm good. I don't need to do this. But what it did for me is it changed everything, because anybody I met next, if you weren't going to add
something to your life,
then I can't do it, because you know, at the end of the day, I'm really good with my TV, with my remote, with my, you know, with my kids, with my whatever. So even though it's difficult, I really encourage you to not over busy yourself. Put your phone down. Like, try to just, like, you have this beautiful backyard. Just sit, read a book. You know, try not to distract from the aloneness, because then you will get comfortable in it. You know, that's interesting that you say that, because I know for me, you know, my whole life has been go, one thing, next thing. And when you are quiet and when you just sit
And when you are alone, it hits you like a ton of bricks.
Yes.
You know? And so if you can really just allow that to be, you know, allow that to be and allow yourself to be, not do, but be, you will be amazed at how it changes everything.
Well, the tool for that is, I remember when I was in therapy, I feel like I'm 100 years old, but it was like 25 years ago. And I
well, you're not 100.
Just to the left of it. But what happened was my therapist challenged me to take 20 minutes a day. Actually, there's no way in hell she said 20 minutes. She probably said 5 or 10 to start. So 5 or 10 to start, that I was to go home, put my purse down, and just sit and do nothing. And just like,
that's hard.
Breathe. And back then we didn't have cell phones.
Right.
We did not have cell phones, right? So, or we didn't have any no technology. So if it rang, then I would answer it. But other than that, it had nothing else. So I had to go sit. And then every time it was like 15 minutes. Now do 20 minutes of, we call it in therapy, being with the tea. Like you have your tea and you be with your tea and you taste it and you savor it and you're out on your porch and you listen to the birds. Have you ever done that? Just, I've got so many birds outside and they're just talking up a storm.
I did that after yoga. There's a whole garden in the back of my yoga studio, and just sit there and it's like, don't get on your phone.
Yeah.
Don't feel like you have to go somewhere right now. You have nowhere to be. Just sit here and enjoy this garden with the birds and the butterflies. And it was like, it was amazing. But we don't do that. I mean, I'm standing up eating, like wolfing down food, you know, and it's like, can I just sit down and enjoy my food? You know, do I really have to be constantly doing something?
On the run.
Yeah.
I have a friend who taught me, and I just love it. She's the coolest girl ever. But we were standing outside, and she said, you know, sometimes I just go out and I go, which one of you's got me? Which one of you trees has me today? Who's gonna take care of me? Like talking about how we're all connected, like the universe, the cells, the earth, the sun, the wind. We're all connected. And she's like, and you know, like, one of the trees will step forward. Like I will feel a draw to one of the trees. Like I've got you. Like connecting to the universe and just really just being in time and space without distracting is so powerful. Yeah. But none of us do it anymore because if we have a minute in traffic, we will check our Facebook. Right?
You know, I was talking to an Ayurvedic.
Oh, yeah, you're on your
own. She's an Ayurvedic clinician. She's not a doctor, but she does like Ayurvedic treatments. And she said, when was the last time you actually went and hopped in the ocean? And I was like, I don't know. It's been a while.
Long time.
You just need to like feel the ocean and just go and jump in the ocean, and the salt water is so healing for you. And I was like, oh my God, like I live a mile from the beach. Yeah. And when was the last time I jumped in the ocean? I can't even tell you. It's been at least a year. At least a year.
Mm-hmm.
And
or put your feet in the sand.
Right.
And curl it underneath your toes. Right. And just feel the wind, the sea salt brushing on your skin. When's the last time, I challenge anybody, that you were aware of all 5 of your senses? That you felt your legs on the chair and your hands on Sophie.
We actually did that in yoga the other day, and it was like, you know, smell, touch,
taste in your mouth.
Right.
What are you hearing? What are you seeing? What's on your fingertips? We don't even feel our legs on the chair most of the days. We don't even feel the shirt on our skin. Like, we're just out of body most of the time. You know? And
that's why being alone is so hard, because we can't just be with ourselves. And when you really are able to do that and really get in touch with yourself, I think it gets easier.
Oh yeah. Anything you practice, I'm sorry, except tennis. I'm going to say, I never did get good at tennis, but most anything you practice, present company excluded, you know, people that go to the gym, they go in, they're awkward, they're hurting, they're sore, they're tearing this, they're twisting that, but they go for a year and then you walk and you go, whoa, look what, I mean, my daughter's been away at college. She started working out when she went back Christmas. She came home, I was like, wow, like the things your body has done. I mean, she looks amazing, you know? And it's just, so anything that you do over time, you will adapt, you will adjust, and there's healing to be done there.
Yeah. So. Well, you know, when you make a change in your life, whether that's a change in a relationship or whatever, that is a real healing time. That is a time to heal.
And what I can tell you is, if you are afraid of being alone and that is your reason for staying in anything, please don't.
Don't.
That is a bad idea.
Bad idea.
There's a book written years ago about questions. I wish I could remember the exact title, but as we've discussed, I never read it. But I did peruse it. Right. And it's a beautiful book. And every question is like, am I making this decision out of fear or faith? Am I making the decision, that kind of concept, like what is the driving force? And if fear is your motivating force, it's probably not the right decision.
So true.
Yeah.
Oh, so true. All right. That was a good discussion. Sophie, how you feeling?
Sophie does not feel alone right now. She definitely does not feel alone.
This dog has not been alone since she came into this house.
A day in her life.
She just wants love from everyone.
Good for you. Right, and sometimes Sophie? We just need to be petted. Yes.
All right. Well, everyone have a great day. And don't forget to leave us a comment, show topic ideas. Don't forget we're on YouTube. Go subscribe to our channel, What Your Friends Won't Tell You. We're on podcasts, Google Play, iTunes. We're on the Anchor app as well. So go listen if you can't watch.
Yes.
And what else are we?
And ideas. Give us your ideas because we want to talk about what you want to hear us talk about.
Yes. Yes.
So
all right, everyone. Thank you and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Bye.